Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Aaron. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about all things financial planning today, and I'm going to introduce Aaron Rubin. He's from, okay, I got to say it right. Werba,
Rubin.
Rubin, Papier. Did I say it almost
That
correct?
sounds good. Sounds good to me.
All right, good morning. I'm going to let you go ahead now.
Oh, okay. Well, let me get my screen share. Oh, if you don't mind
Oh,
turning
wait, hold on.
screen sharing on.
I got it. Let's see.
This is Julie's first time. So
No. Snarky man. All right, try it now.
All right. That looks good. Perfect. All right. So, was talking to Skip, and what he mentioned to me was that he had some conversations with real estate professionals, and it became clear that maybe not everyone knows what financial advisors do and kind of the different roles that they tend to play. And so he thought it'd be helpful, and I think it'd be really helpful for everyone to sort of get an idea of how the industry works a little bit. One, so that hopefully you can get more referrals, so you know who you're referring to, and give more referrals and give the right referrals to your clients, which again, always a good thing. So let me hit the space. There we go. Too fast. So there's me. I'm a Vo-Tech guy, and did my undergrad at Claremont McKenna College. Went to law school, passed the bar, became a CPA, certified financial planner. Spent 3 years in public accounting, working for high net worth people. One for a stint at one of the big firms, and then I went to a regional firm for a couple of years. Been in financial services for 15 years ever since, and published a book back in 2019. It's on Amazon, but note that some jerk published a book by the same exact name 3 years after I published my book. So buy the right one. Buy the right one. It's Aaron Rubin. It's a cool cover. Airplane flying. But financial services, I think, deserves a little bit of fleshing out because my jobs in financial services have varied substantially. So, as I mentioned, I started as a CPA, working on tax returns. And then joined my father-in-law in his practice in 2009. And he said, you know what, we could really expand our business. You should become an insurance agent. So I did. I was a farmer's insurance agent for a little bit. Important thing to note about farmer's insurance. And again, not meaning to disparage any one farmer's agent. I know a lot of great farmer's agents, by the way. But to become a farmer's agent, you don't need a lot of background. So they let me on board right away, which was good. And I was selling property and casualty insurance, or trying to sell property and casualty insurance and life insurance, again under the farmer's umbrella. It's so important to note, sort of right off the bat, that when you're an agent of a company, you represent them. And if you're captive, that means you can't go outside of that farmer. For me, it was the farmer's family, unless there was a reason, the farmers wouldn't write it, or, again, there are other extenuating circumstances. So did that for just a little bit. And then got back in, started to really get back into the financial advisory side of things rather than insurance. And so I left farmers, but I did keep my license, and I was a broker. So I was selling, again, policies that were term policies. I didn't sell a whole lot of whole life, but I was appointed with Prudential, Hartford, Ohio National, and several others. And so broker, as opposed to an agent, they can go out and find the best deals, for their clients, regardless of, who the company might be. So I was doing that. And at the same time, I also started working securities, and I was part of a broker. And the broker was a very small broker called Lord & Ward Securities, Inc. And there I could sell commission-based products. I did a little bit of that, not a whole lot, because at the same time, I was also an advisor with an advisory firm. At first, it was Werba Davis, my father-in-law, last name Werba. I would join him and his partner. His partner left. I became the partner of Werba Rubin, and then we added a partner several years ago. So I say all of this because everything we're going to talk about today in financial advisory and how it all works, I've done it. And I've been on the inside for all of the things we're going to talk about. And so, if you have a question that relates to any one of these, I'm happy to answer them, along the way. There will be a Q&A afterwards, but again, just want to give my background so you all know that I've been there. And the problem is, as I was working for CPA, but as I was insurance agent, insurance broker, broker for financial services, advisor, what I noticed as I talked with professionals and especially the public at large, is that we all look the same to everybody. And it's hard to discern, what is the difference between all of these different things? And really with good reason. Because if we look at someone's business card, right, when you meet with a financial advisor as a real estate professional, you get the business card, you get the email with with all their info, in the signature block. And I have been pretty much all of these different things in terms of title, right? Because you see things, financial advisor, financial consultant, financial planner. You see things that they'll say investment advisor, investment consultant, investment planner, wealth advisor, wealth manager, which is my current title, by the way, for what it's worth. And then some people are financial coaches. Now, do all of these things mean the same thing? No, they don't all mean the same thing. And you can sort of glean what's important to someone based upon their title a little bit, but a lot of people use them interchangeably, even though they sort of aren't interchangeable, which leads to that confusion. So again, you get that business card and you see one of these titles, on that business card. You can't really rely on knowing what they do based upon that title, because a title for the most part is marketing. It's really just trying to tell people the business that you want, and again, of limited use. So the next thing that people tend to look at when they get the business card is they will look at all of the letters next to the person's name. And there can be lots of letters, right? And I'll give you my top ones and explain them briefly. But you have a CFA, a chartered financial analyst, and a CFA is someone who has taken an exam and really has done a lot of work around portfolio construction, doing all the math behind portfolio construction, really getting into the weeds when talking about investments. And so if you see a CFA next to somebody's name, know that, hey, this person's really into portfolio management. They may not necessarily have a lot of experience in sort of reaching other people's, areas that might be important to them, whether it's retirement or, financial planning, precisely. But the CFA means they're pretty smart, because it's a pretty hard exam. It's probably the most difficult exam of anything we're going to see up here today. Then there's a CFP, certified financial planner. I am a certified financial planner. And a CFP is someone who has a bachelor's degree. That's a requirement for the CFP. Now, again, whether or not you need a bachelor's degree to do this work, again, I'll leave that up to everyone else to decide if that's important. But they've also taken a series of classes or exams, and they do a lot. We do a lot of continuing education at the same time. So CFP is a pretty rigorous process, not as investment focused as the CFA. The CFP exam tests lots of different areas of a person's knowledge. It will talk about investment, but it will also talk about financial planning. It'll talk about retirement planning. It'll talk about insurance. It'll talk about estate planning. It'll talk about tax. So, they have a very broad background, but they are not necessarily solid experts in any one of those things. They might be, but not necessarily. When you see a CFP designation, you know a little bit about it. Chartered financial consultant has the CHFC has a very similar testing in terms of the background. So as a CFP, so again, the very broad set of principles when getting a CHFC. You do not need to have a bachelor's degree. Again, may not be important. And it's not quite as rigorous as the CFP exam. CFP exam and the CHFC are similar in many ways. The CFP is run by the I should know this because I'm a CFP. I'm gonna get in trouble if they see this presentation. It's run by I forgot what the financial planning organization. The CHFC is run by the American Financial Planners Board. So different regulatory boards as well between the CFP and CHFC. Similar backgrounds. And then you have CLUs, charter licensed underwriters or certified, I can't remember which one it was, but they are insurance based. So that is an insurance, certification that this person has studied up on their insurance policies and they know insurance backwards and forwards. So if you see this on someone's business card, they tend to have that slant towards insurance. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what they only do, but you know that insurance is going to come up at some point. And then we have something called the AIF, or the Accredited Investment Fiduciary. If you see an AIF designation, that's someone who has worked or works extensively on retirement plans, not necessarily with individuals, but people who do 401ks and defined benefit plans and all that good stuff. AIF is typically what they'll have. So if you see an AIF and you're talking financial planning or financial advisory, know that they have or had at some point a specialty in the actual plans themselves. And so now I'm giving you my top 5. And why am I giving you the top 5? And is this relevant or important or helpful? And the answer is sort of. If you go to, I believe it's the FINRA, which is a regulatory website for advisors. If you go to the FINRA website and you can actually look up what all of the different designations mean. And aside from these 5 designations, there's 250 more designations. So there are so many designations such that it becomes so confusing to look. Again, we go back to the zebra image, right? How do you tell somebody apart if there's so many designations? So, but again, these top 5, again, it'll give you a clue as to how they approach problems. Whether they approach it from an analytical standpoint from investments, or whether they do a 365 or 30,000 foot view, or whether they're insurance based or whether they're plan based. But no, there's way more out there. And again, it can be confusing. So I've given you enough to muddy the water that hopefully we can start to clear it up a little. And in the industry as a whole, there's certain ways to run financial planning or investment advisory practice. And the first, I'll put on insurance agents because I've had insurance agents tell me that they're wealth planners. And so, and if someone is an insurance agent, again, they can usually deal with investments in some way. It might be inside of a variable annuity or variable insurance product. And there's lots of different ways to do it. But you're an insurance agent, again, they'll call themselves financial advisors of some sort. And then you have brokers. And more accurately, if you want to impress all your friends, they are not technically brokers when you talk to a broker. They're technically broker-dealer representatives. The broker, or more accurately, the broker-dealer, is the larger organization. So Merrill Lynch or Wells Fargo or Stanley, those are all brokers. The people that work under them, or the people that work for them, are broker-dealer representatives. And what's important to know about a broker-dealer representative is that broker-dealer representatives, and I'll just keep calling brokers because now we all know the cat's out of the bag and what their names really are. But what brokers do is brokers sell things for commission. They sell a product, they get a commission for that product. And it could be a mutual fund, it could be another type of financial product, but they get it, they make the sale, they get their money. And sometimes they'll get what's called a trail, which means that they'll have a bigger commission up front, and then they'll have like a smaller commission for a period of time, called a trail. But again, commission's a big thing. They're regulated by an organization called FINRA, and FINRA is I think it's a self-regulatory body, but again, they make all the rules for what brokers can and cannot say. It is. Again, having worked at a broker, It's horrible to be regulated by FINRA because there are so many rules around, around trying to communicate with clients. So brokers in general. And then also there are RIAs, registered investment advisors. Now, again, dirty little secret. If someone says they're an RIA, a person says they're an RIA, technically they're not an RIA. They are an IAR, which is an investment advisor representative. But again, it gets confusing if you start, saying that, they're not RIAs. But what they're trying to communicate to you is that they do not work on commission. An RIA can't accept commission because in order to accept commission for a financial product, you need to be part of a broker-dealer to do that. So your RIAs, again, they work on some sort of fee-based arrangement with clients. They could be an hourly. It could be there can be asset under management fees, which is how our firm gets compensated. But the important thing to note for registered for an IAR is an IAR is a fiduciary for their clients, meaning that they have to do what's in the best interest of the client when it comes to working with securities of any sort. Important to note that brokers and broker-dealer representatives do not have the same standard. Broker-dealer representatives, the way they get to work with clients is they do what's called suitability. And suitability means that the whatever they're going to be placed into.
No, Hartman. I don't have it here, so not Hartman, but I should.
I'll mute down there. The suitability means that they can use the universe of investment so long as it is not inappropriate for the client. So little old lady comes in with her $20,000 CD that just matured, and if the person behind the desk says, "Oh, you should be," and that's $20,000 is her only, savings. The person behind the desk can't say, "Oh, well, you should be in, a private equity fund." That wouldn't make any sense. And you would get in trouble for doing something like that. But, if there's two different securities or mutual funds that, are still appropriate for the client because they have liquidity and all that good stuff, the person who is making the recommendation as a broker can recommend, the product that gives them the highest commission, so long as it is appropriate for the client. Not saying that brokers do this. There are lots of great brokers out there, and they're perfectly nice people. But again, that is possible. Now, as confusing as all that is, we're going to add another layer of confusion onto all of these people, and we're going to add in dual registered people. And those are dual registered people are those that are both broker-dealer representatives and investment advisor representatives at the same time, which never sat well with me personally, because I don't know how you could be a fiduciary some of the time, but it happens a lot in the industry. So if you're at like a Wells Fargo or a bigger firm, typically, the advisor will be able to, let's say, sell commission-based products to clients who aren't big enough to be, fee-only clients. And then, and for larger clients, you typically see them try to put them on their RIA track because the compensation is a little better than if they had the commission. So be aware that people that you talk to, even if you get their business card, the telltale sign, by the way, is their business card, because it will say somewhere on there, registered FINRA. And if it says registered FINRA, that means that they are a broker dealer or they're a broker dealer representative. And could it additionally be a registered investment advisor? So let's say you're going to meet with an investment advisor for the first time, to have coffee and talk about their business and all that. What would I do if I want to do a little bit of homework? What I would do is and my screen is not working here. There we go. Sorry. There is a great website here. I'll put it over here. So this is the SEC, I'm sorry, advisor info at SEC. And I can put my name in here, Aaron Rubin, and my zip code. Zip code. Oh, it doesn't like that. All right. Said I can put in my zip code, but I will search and I'll find me. This is me. It says that I'm an investment advisor, which means that I'm part of an RIA and that I was previously with a broker. And it gives me my experience, and disclosures are, have I gotten in trouble with the regulatory boards? The answer is no, I have not. So I can go to more details, and I could, I get my address, I know what exams, that I passed. And it gives me a timeline of when I worked for whom, and for how long. So let me. Shoot. Let me. All right. So you can see that, I've been investment advisor with WRP since 2008. Again, I said Loring Ward Financial and Loring Ward Securities. So again, lots of stuff available publicly if you want to do a little bit of research ahead of time. So back to the show. Go. So we got dual registered. Okay, so what I've given you everything that isn't helpful. Let me give you something that is. How do we start trying to figure out what it is a financial advisor does? And it always is going to require you to dive just a little bit deeper. And if we ask an advisor, oh, do you do financial planning? Every advisor is going to say yes, but it doesn't really mean anything, because financial planning means different things to different people, including advisors. So we can ask them, what's your financial advisor process like? And that will tell you a lot more, because it'll tell you, like, for instance, our financial advisory process, we have multiple meetings. We're often updating plans. We're making sure, that everything's, on the up and up. And then for some advisors, it's, oh, well, I take a look at their net worth. Is that really financial planning? I mean, I wouldn't call it financial planning, but lots of people would. But asking them with the process is important. Similarly, you can ask someone, oh, do you help people with tax? If you're a financial advisor with that, they will say yes. Everyone's going to say yes. Asking the deeper question will get you a better answer, which is, do you prepare tax returns? Now, if they say no, they'll tell you what it is they mean by tax, right? So they'll say, oh, no, I don't prepare tax returns, but we make sure that later on in life, someone doesn't have to pay tax, because they can withdraw their earnings tax-free using a loan. Well, that's a product feature of insurance. That's not actually helping people with tax, my 2 cents on it. Or someone will say, oh, well, we scan all the people's tax returns, and we have an app that tells us, different opportunities. Okay, that's one way to do tax. And then some people will actually be preparing tax returns, or they'll be doing, some of the more heavier lifting on tax. Estate planning. If you ask if they help with estate planning, everyone's going to say yes. Insurance people and advisors alike. Sure we do. Yeah, we make sure that, the estate's not taxable when somebody dies, so that everyone has money to pay, their expenses. Okay, well, that's insurance product. That's not necessarily actually doing estate planning. The question that you need to ask is, how do you get involved in estate planning? Because different advisors do it differently. At my firm, we'll talk to people about their estate plans, what they want to accomplish, and then we'll send them to a estate planning attorney, if that makes sense. I know other firms that they will actually sit in on the estate planning attorney's meetings, and they will be really active participants. Again, just another way to do it, but it tells you more about the advisor when you ask them what it is that they do. Insurance, every person is going to say they help with insurance. Some do it more than others. The question that you really want to ask is, do you sell insurance or otherwise get compensated? Because it tells you how involved they're going to be and what their motivations are going to be when dealing with your client or with you, or, again, when your client says they need insurance, you know who to send them to. Same thing with retirement cash flow. Everyone's going to say they do it, but how you do it varies so tremendously. So you could say, well, how do you model your cash flows? Which is a better question, because again, even within my firm, there are advisors who their idea of modeling cash flow is to take a person's net worth, multiply it by 4%, or their liquid net worth, multiply it by 4%, and say, here, this is how much you should take for retirement. Again, how helpful is that? I mean, some people find it helpful. When I do my retirement cash flow planning, I typically use an app. I do modeling. I show large withdrawals. I try to, figure out what Social Security makes sense, in terms of timing and spouses, all that good stuff. And it's a way more intricate model. Everyone does it differently. So again, in trying to figure out what referral makes sense for any individual client, you sort of need to understand how the advisors approach each of these issues. So I also wanted to spend just a teeny amount of time on investment strategy, because it varies so much and it is so confusing. But when we talk about investing, there's really two different ways that advisors tend to think about investments for their clients. And the first is they'll take a tactical approach. And when you take a tactical approach, that means you're trying to pick and choose. And you can be picking and choosing the market, when to get in the market, when to leave the market. You can be picking and choosing stocks. You can be picking and choosing sectors. You can be doing all sorts of stuff. But the whole idea is that you're going to take data and you're going to try to find the best returns market somehow. And you're going to be very active about it. You're not necessarily looking for diversification. What you're looking for is sort of a leg up on the next advisor. The opposite of that, and the other choice, is to do what's called strategic investing. And the best way to describe that is it's more buy and hold. Tends to have more diversification, though not always. If you're buying and holding small amounts of stock, that's not diversified. That's just being strategic. And within that strategic universe, there's a whole bunch of other ways to sort of or fracture out how you're actually doing it. Some people do value investing, so that, people think of Warren Buffett when they think of value investing. Buying companies that aren't rocket ships. They're sort of slow and steady and letting that do its thing. Some people say I'm gonna use small companies. Perfectly fine. You can be strategic in that. You can say, well, I think small companies do better than large companies over time, which is how it tends to work. But I'm gonna push towards that. Some are going to focus on alternatives. They're going to buy and hold alternatives, or that's sort of their worldview, is that alternatives are better because things which are not public, they tend to have premiums, which may or may not be true. I would be cautious with someone who says that their big thing is alternatives, because alternatives just mean so many things. It could be a hedge fund, which is basically a giant black box, and you pray that someone's not ripping you off. And then you have things like private equity, which tend to be very illiquid, so they're hard to get out of, and maybe you have to hold it for 10 or 15 years. So be careful on that. And for some alternatives, by the way, some actually think that you can have alternatives in the public market, or some really get into real estate. Real estate's considered an alternative asset class as well. So alternatives mean a ton of different things. And then some tend to be more tax focused. That's my firm. We're very into after-tax return and seeing how we can use portfolios to, get the best tax advantage possible. I think if I were in your shoes as a real estate professional, I think the biggest question, the most important question, is, who's your ideal client? Tell me who that is. And the advisor they'll give you the demographics behind it. And if they don't give you, their background or what they're looking for, you can ask. Be like, oh, well, okay, yeah, sure. You want to work with, divorcees in the Bay Area. That's great. What do they look like? What's their net worth? What are they doing? Do they have a house? And see who they like. And that will help kind of drive, again, who you refer to and maybe who you choose to network with as a result. That was my whole song and dance. Skip had a lot of great questions. So I'm gonna turn this. I said Q&A. I was actually lying. We're gonna do an Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions, if you want recipes, I'll find your recipes. But I would keep it to financial planning type stuff. But again, happy to answer any question.
Before we get into the Q&A, maybe I can go through some of these other things that I had brought up that kind of relate to some of this stuff. First of all, for disclosure, I'm also a certified financial planner since '91. I had my Series 7 and 63 securities license, but I let them expire. And Aaron is my own personal advisor. Yes, I have another advisor as mine because, as doctors say, they don't want to do their own brain surgery. So Aaron and I go back a ways, and he's been very helpful with my financial plan. But some of the things, well, I just brought up that I'm a financial planner, but I don't have the license to sell securities. Now, this can be very confusing, and it comes up a lot with me where they don't understand that the certified financial planner is not licensed. He doesn't represent anybody legally, and there can be some problems with that. For instance, somebody can call themselves a financial planner, and you saw that big long list at the beginning of what it is. So Joe Sixpack, who's a plumber during the day, can actually put a shingle out and offer financial planning at night. And somebody can come to him and say, well, I got $1,000. What should I do? And he'd say, okay, buy Apple stock. Now that'll be $250 for the advice, please. That's perfectly okay. However, he cannot sell or buy the Apple stock. That's what you need a securities license for. That was what my Series 7 and 63 was. So I no longer can transact any actions, but I can give advice. So a lot of people think that certified financial planners are licensed. They're not. They're an association, a professional organization that helps with the, let's just call it legitimacy of financial planning. In fact, it takes more licensing to be a beautician than it does to be a financial planner. So you might want to keep that in mind. So with that said, we didn't go over quite all the ways that they can be paid. Now, I'm assuming you're going to mention commissions, fee for service, and maybe even referral fees. Can you comment on how they get paid?
Sure. So yeah, we talked just a little bit about the commission side of things. Again, brokers get commission. How an RIA would get paid. There are some RIAs which they'll say they're fee based, and that typically means that they're probably dual registered, so they're getting some fees and some commission. And then there are some financial advisors out there that are called fee only. So we're a fee only firm because we don't do any commissions whatsoever. And the fee onlys and how they get paid can vary as well. So I know other advisors who get paid by the hour. So they'll charge $200 an hour. They'll do a financial plan, or they'll give some sort of advice, for that, for whatever time they spend. Our firm is an assets under management fee. So we have a set schedule of, again, because we help people invest their money, and we do those transactions for them. We'll get paid a percentage of those assets on an annual basis. Well, it's a quarterly basis, but the whole idea is that they're paying some sort of annual fee ratably, so that's more of a fee for service. And then some you can get referral fees from other advisors. So especially within the broker dealer world, if you're making referrals to other broker dealers, there'll be some sort of fair fee sharing arrangement. But if you're a fee only, if you're like us, you're fee only, and you refer to somebody who does a commission-based business, the commission people cannot send me commission. They can't share that commission with me in any way, just against the rules.
Okay.
Is that answered? Good.
I was just going to say, can you comment about the steps to create a financial plan? What's involved?
Yeah, and it's different for different people. I can tell you the way I do it. When a client first comes to me, we will start by when we always have a relationship agreement. So if you're working with an advisor, you should always have a contract that spells out what the fees are, what the services are going to be, just so everyone's clear. But once we have that contract in place, with new clients, we'll often start the financial planning process. And for us, that means they'll start by inputting all of their assets into an app we use called eMoney. eMoney is a financial planning software for financial planners.
And this is going to be an important one for us real estate agents. How do you find, interview, and select a financial planner?
Yeah, so I would say most people that I speak to are referrals from others. That's how most people, I think, find me. We do some online outreach as well. Not surprising, you don't get a ton that way, and you get a lot of tire kickers. What I usually do is I usually start with a first conversation, where just sort of get to know me, I get to know them. I get to tell them what I do, make sure that we're aligned with what they want. And then, if everything, goes well and everyone's feeling good, then we have a second conversation. We get a little bit deeper into kind of how we work and how we would work with them. And so, it's several discussions back and forth, making sure that everyone aligns along the way.
Okay, this isn't really a question, but you might want to point out that you do have a periodic review process where you kind of, see how's it going type thing from time to time, usually yearly or every 6 months. What if you don't like the financial planner? What are your options? Part
of it depends on, you can always fire the financial planner in some way. The consequences of which vary. So I'll tell you, like, if you get into like an annuity, annuities will typically have periods in which you will have some sort of penalty. So usually if you end an annuity and it's either an 8-year or a 10-year period for which you can't take money out of the product itself. So, or you can do it with a penalty. So like the first year or two, they'll charge an 8% penalty if you want to get out of the annuity. And then it goes down over time until you get to the final year, then it becomes 0. And then you can take your money out without any penalty. But you can always tell, you can say the person who sold you the annuity to begin with, who's maybe doing your financial planning for you, you can always tell them to take a hike, and you can remove them from your account. And then you can either not have, usually you can not have an agent if that's what you want. That's called having a house account. Same thing on the broker side. There are some investment products when you're doing commission-based work where there is a penalty for leaving within a certain period of time. Within the broker world, there's A shares, B shares, C shares, and there's others as well. But an A share is, I think, and Skip probably knows this better than I do because I wasn't a broker for very long. A shares are where you get charged an amount up front for a commission. So it might be a 5 or 7% commission up front. You'll lose the first amount of that you invest. B shares are, I think, on the back end. C shares are on the back end, but over time, they end up abating so that by year 5, you end up not having to pay a fee for getting out of those C shares. Now, again, same thing with insurance agent. You can tell them to take a hike early. You can make it a house account if you want to. But there may be a penalty for leaving the product. For an RIA like me, the way we do it is because we're billing on a quarterly basis. Once a client says that they don't want to work with us anymore, we will refund the fee that we have not earned for the quarter back to the client. So there's never any fee for leaving. Occasionally you'll run into some that have like an exit fee of some sort, like a few $100. But by and large, I think most people nowadays, most advisors who are fee only or fee based, they won't have an exit fee. But again, it'll be in your contract, so you're going to make sure you read that.
Okay, and I'm assuming that all of these pretty much is a blanket that you have a fiduciary relationship. Are there any that don't, maybe?
Yeah, so it goes back to that broker dealer standard with having it be a suitability standard, meaning that the product isn't necessarily in the best interest of the client. Hopefully it is. As long as it's suitable for the client, it can be used for a client portfolio. And what that equates to is you don't have a fiduciary relationship with your client because you don't have to do what's in their best interest necessarily. Hopefully they do, but not necessarily. So when you're dealing with an investment advisor, yes, fiduciary. If you're not dealing with an investment advisor, then not a fiduciary. And again, hopefully they're doing the right thing, but there's no one telling them they have to do what's in the best interest of the client.
Okay, and maybe you can just let the viewers know a little bit about asset classes and diversification.
Yeah. Now I really get to tee off on this, right? So when it goes back to that strategic and even the tactical side, that diversification and there's always, if you go to any website where they talk about investing, there's always a disclosure when they talk about diversification. And the big thing with diversification is that diversification does not guarantee a less loss or additional gain. And that's completely true. Diversification in and of itself is really a tool to get rid of some of the risks that are inherent to the parts of the market. So what I mean by that is, if you were to say, let's say you're a tactical person, you're saying, well, I'm going to invest in high tech and I'm going to pick the best names. So high tech has that's what we call sector risk. So if the entire tech market goes down, which by the way, we saw not that long ago, at least not by my standard anyway, we saw that back in the 2000s, right? Where the whole of the tech sector got just demolished. But the rest of the market actually was doing okay. If you have diversification, or if diversification is important, you don't have it where the entire portfolio goes down. So diversification can help you get rid of some of the risks that are inherent when you have concentrations of whether it's stock or sectors, but it can't get rid of market risk. And the sectors that you have, right? Whether it's tech or consumables or SaaS, all of those. Some people focus on them, and there's no literature out there that says that one sector tends to do better than another over time. Certainly over the last 10 years, tech has done better than all the other sectors, but that isn't necessarily how it's always going to be.
Okay, and lastly, not a question, but I did want to point out that one of the advantages in using some of these advisors is that they have access to wholesale funds that the general public doesn't. So you will be able to access well, there's quite a few funds out there that you can't just go out and buy as, as a civilian. Is William Sharp still in charge of financial engines?
Oh, yeah, I actually don't know.
Well, anyway, William Sharp won the Nobel Prize in Economics years ago, and he started a fund called Financial Engines. I believe they're out of Stanford area, but you just can't go out and buy funds like that unless the advisor has access to them, and that can really help your portfolio. So just another reason why you might want to use a financial planner. And with that, I'm done. So I'll open it up to everybody else.
Yeah, I'll in regards also to that, there's also been a lot of movement towards ETFs or exchange traded funds in the last several years. And the some of the exclusivity of some of these funds as they've wanted to branch out into ETFs, because ETFs, I don't think you actually can put restrictions on. It's not what it was even as of like 5 years ago. So the industry's changed a little bit for sure. But yeah, there are still plenty of people that plenty of funds that you can't get into unless you have an advisor. Certainly, if you're going to start dabbling in alternative funds, almost all those funds you cannot go into by yourself.
All righty, Lynn. Lynn, did you have a question?
Boy.
20 people are talking at once. Elaine, did you say something? Oh, I think it was Julie, and you're probably getting feedback because you have two horses open there.
You need to kill your mute button, kill your volume in one ear. There you go.
Kill one of the funds connection. Anybody?
I got a good cookie recipe. Anyone wants it?
I'll ask a question.
All right.
So I'm a realtor. I serve seniors. That's my specialty. I have been invited to be part of a group. We have senior home care, a probate lawyer, hospice. Trying to think, what are the other two? But we're working together to form relationships with more people, including financial planners, because we feel that there is this need to have that connection with people who, you're helping people throughout their lives build their portfolio so that they can live an enriched life later on too. So do you have relationships with realtors now? Do you build those relationships, and what does that look like for you? Or what do you recommend in that space?
Who do I recommend to, or what do I recommend?
I mean, so we're looking to partner with financial planners because that's like the missing link in our little group. But really just to be resources. It doesn't matter if it's here, if I know somebody who's in your area, I can, refer them to you. Like there's not necessarily a referral fee that comes of it, but you just know that you have these awesome people that really want to do the best for you in that space. And two, like having your clients, do you talk about things with your clients in the space of the cost of retirement communities, adult communities? What does it look like to actually live in those years and how expensive it really is?
Yeah, I think you have to have that conversation. And that always comes up. you know, it usually comes up in terms of like long-term care or, you know, assisted living or, you know, or nursing home care.
Do a lot
You
of
know,
your clients have long-term care?
no,
Insurance.
but I always talk to them about it.
It's
It's
long-term care insurance, not long-term care.
right,
Long-term
correct,
care
correct,
insurance, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's usually when someone, you know, hits their 50s is when I usually start talking to them about it, because at that
Mhm.
point, they don't mind spending some money on a good policy, because before then they're trying to get their kids through college and all the other things. They don't want to spend the extra, you know,
Yeah.
who knows how much tens of thousands of dollars a year on a really good long-term care policy. You know, I talk a lot with realtors. You know, I'm part of several networking groups where realtors are important. Well, realtors are always important. I've had my share of good and bad ones, and dealt with good and bad ones, and
Yeah.
I'm always you know, and it's hard. And the other, and I think being a real estate professional or dealing with real estate professionals, for me, it's hard for me to discern. Okay, well, who am I talking to is quality? You know, and you know, and I like I to me, and like I have, and my other problem is I fall in the same trap as other people do with financial advisors, in the sense of, you know, I will, you know, I probably think I know more than I really know. And so, you know, people will, you know, say, oh, well, you know, you know, what I charge is I charge 6% on the, well, I guess this is pre that, I charge 3%, you know, on my, you know, my listing fee. And I'm, you know, it used to be 6 and then you'd split it. But anyway, and to me, like, I always think 2.5, like that's ingrained in my brain. So, you know, someone says, oh, it's 2, and so, you know, what this is to say is that sometimes I'll get hung up on things that I probably shouldn't get hung up on. But I guess, again, I always listen to clients, you know, in terms of, you know, what feedback I get about real estate professionals as well, because, you know, that's super important to me. When a client comes to me and says, oh yeah, I had a bad experience with so and so, I won't use them again. But again, it's hard for me to discern, like, okay, this person's going to do a good job, or this person's not going to do. I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah. And what is a bad job to one person may be the right thing for somebody else. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's comes down to personality, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, I had a situation with a client where, for a real estate person who, again, I really like her, and you know, and their experience to me was, oh, you know, we met with her once, and then she'd email us every so often, and it wasn't as hands-on as they were hoping. And so it's part of it's about dealing with expectation, and probably me asking more questions, like, oh, well, you know, how often do you meet with, and part of it, I don't even know the questions I ask sometimes. So, but yeah, you know, for me, real estate people are important for sure. I have certain people that I know I refer to. Like, if I have someone who I know their house is in disrepair and they're going to need a lot of handling, like, I have my person for that. You know, oh, I have someone, you know, in the East Bay. I have someone, you know, in the Tri-Valley. I have someone, you know, in the South Bay.
Pauline, I'm licensed to sell long-term care insurance. If you have any specific questions, you can get in touch with me. And Aaron, do you have a slide with your contact info? Maybe you could put that up.
You know, if I was a good salesperson, I would.
That's okay.
But
It's in the bulletin. It's on the front page of the bulletin, and it'll be in the bulletin next week as well.
What bulletin? You got it.
Aren't you funny? Aaron, I have a question.
Yes.
So we're being seniors real estate specialists, that sort of sets us apart from the other realtors. So I just want to highlight that. And in our group, we endeavor to make that a pretty big deal. So when we talk to our senior homeowners and the families of senior homeowners, one of the things that I look for with financial planning professionals is help with our clients and their capital gains tax liability objection. So, and there's a couple different answers to that, but mostly I like to defer to a professional resource to help my clients learn about the options that they have when they're faced with a capital gains event. So what can you say for that?
So there are different ways to deal with capital gains from an investment perspective. So one of the things that we do a lot of is for people who have a capital gains issue is something called active tax loss harvesting. And again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but instead of buying a mutual fund, if you create your own mutual fund using individual stocks, you can actually do a lot more tax gamesmanship there. So sometimes that is so I had a situation where I have a client, she's in her mid-90s. She had to sell her home because she needed to get into a facility that could take care of her. So she has, I think, a $2 million capital gain for 2024. So we use some tax loss harvesting in her account. We're hopefully going to get 40 or 50,000, maybe more of capital losses. I mean, is it going to save her, millions? No, but we're hoping we're going to save her $10,000 to $20,000, which is enough to pay for a month or two where she's at. So that's worth something.
Definitely. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Skip.
I was gonna say, I did a presentation on long-term or capital gains taxes and how to get around it. So if you're interested, I might be able to send that old presentation to anybody.
We could put that in the bulletin.
Okay. What bulletin is that now?
All right, anybody else have any questions?
Hey, Julie, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sure. I would wonder, how do you feel about people using their home equity to help pay for some of their expenses like in-home care and just dealing with inflation as their living situation changes?
Yeah, I talk to people about, again, depending on the situation, sometimes you can do a home equity line of credit, but a lot of times you end up with the not with HECM, right? Reverse mortgage, right? And I talk to clients a lot about that, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. So some, like I'm dealing with a family right now where, the spouse told me, come hell or high water, they are dying in that house and they don't care, how much it costs. And we are burning through their accounts because it's so expensive to have 24-hour in-home care. And at some point, we're going to end up having to use, a home equity conversion. That's right. That's a home equity conversion mortgage. We're going to have to end up using one of those. Sometimes it's the right decision. Sometimes it's not. And obviously, you probably know that, if they think they're going to end up leaving their house, and sometimes you don't intend on leaving your house, but sometimes you have to, you end up owing that money back, immediately once you're no longer a resident in that house, and that could be burdensome if that's the only equity you have. So, but anyway, yeah, you know what? It sometimes that's what you do because it works.
No, I agree with you. I think that the HECM is a great tool. That's actually what I do. I'm a reverse specialist, not a realtor, but wanted to get your brain, pick your brain on that. So thank you.
Yep. It's a tool in the toolbox, and it's an important one.
Absolutely.
Sherry, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry. I took off mute by accident.
So,
Don't ever do
I
that again.
yeah, I was gonna say I see mid Michigan, right? So I mean, is that right there? Okay. I'm from the Midwest, so I'm familiar with how Michiganders point out where they live.
Michiganders. Wow. All right, well, my head is spinning with all of this information. Anybody else have any questions? Amazing. All righty, everybody. Thank you so much, Aaron. We learned so much. I really appreciate it. Again, I do want to highlight the SRES realtors and how we work as realtors in contrast with our colleagues. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I hope that especially when we work with our collaborating industries and affiliates, we do want to establish that as a highlight because it does make a difference when we're working with our senior homeowners and families of senior homeowners. And those examples that you just talked about, your families, those are our clients. Thank you so much. All right, everybody.
And next week,
Next week, we're going to talk about insurance. I'm so excited. So excited. So excited. From an insurance broker. So
All right.
another broker with a capital B. I don't know. It just goes on and on and on. All right, everybody.
All right. Thank
Have a
y'all.
great week. Thank you so much.
thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
Bye, Eric, Carmen,
Aaron.
Skip,
Thanks,
Dan,
Julie.
Michelin,
Bye, thank you.
Universal, everybody,
Bye.
Sherry.